If you haven't yet heard about the laws governing human dominion, it's likely you've lived, until now, under the illusory protection of a rock, hidden from the blinding light of reality. Today, we descend into the abyss of human nature to engage not with idealisms, but with the brutal mechanics of existence. The theme is not merely survival, but supremacy. Many tremble at the word power, associating it with tyranny and manipulation, plugging their ears to avoid hearing the prescriptive truth that could save them from their own mediocrity. But I tell you, the refusal to understand power does not exempt you from its consequences. It only makes you an easier victim. Power, in its purest and most amoral definition, is a tool. It is the hammer that rests on the table of destiny. In the hands of an architect, it builds cathedrals. In the hands of a barbarian, it crushes skulls. The hammer has no conscience, no guilt, no preference. It is neutral. Power is neither good nor evil. He is the physics of human relationships, and his absence, the absence of power, is hell on earth. Imagine, if you dare, the corrosive feeling of having no control over your immediate environment. You wake up every day and realize your voice is just a whisper in the gale. You don't influence your children, who ignore you. You don't move your spouse, who despises you. You are invisible to your colleagues and a disposable piece for your boss. You issue orders that dissipate into thin air, express desires that are trampled by the will of others. If someone blocks your path, you freeze, unable to remove the obstacle. This powerlessness is not a virtue. It is a disease that rots the soul. Human beings were not designed to endure a lack of agency for long. If you remain in this state of submission, something within you begins to deform psychologically. The energy that should be used to conquer the world turns inward, transforming into resentment, bitterness, and silent hatred. Deep pools of stagnant anger form within you, poisoning every thought, every interaction. You become a spectator of your own tragedy. Therefore, the first step to getting out of this mess is not controlling armies or crowds, but exercising supreme self-mastery. Power begins internally. It begins with ironclad control over your own emotions, so that you cease to be a leaf in the wind, reacting hysterically to every provocation. It is necessary to develop detachment, the ability to take a step back, or two, or three, when chaos ensues. When passion rises, reason must descend like a guillotine. Faced with a tyrannical boss or a difficult partner, the fool reacts, shouts, and cries. The strategist retreats into the shadows of their own mind and asks, "What is the lever that moves this person? What should I do to make them serve my interests?" Perhaps without even realizing they are doing so. That is power. It is the ability to align the interests of others with your own, creating a symphony where you are the invisible conductor. However, life is chaotic. Black swans appear, pandemics ravage, fate is capricious. You will never have complete control over it. Fortune, the goddess of luck, but she can control how she navigates its turbulent waters. That margin of control, however small, is the difference between shipwreck and glory. And the main tool for this navigation is communication, but not communication as most people understand it. Most people believe that communicating is just opening your mouth and letting out your insecurities, your needs, and your desires. That's not communication. That's noise. It is, to be brutally honest, a verbal diarrhea where you expose your weakness to the world. True communication is strategic warfare. It must be surgical. Understand this. People are naturally resistant to helping you. They are trapped in their own dramas, stressed, short on time, fighting their own battles. When you approach them, unloading your problems and what you have to say, you lose interest. You become an irritant, a background noise they want to turn off. You are so absorbed in your own ego that you don't realize your words are falling on barren ground. To win, you must get out of your own head. You must walk in the other person's shoes, however uncomfortable they may be. Who is this person in front of you? What do they fear? What do they secretly desire? What vanity do they need to feed? This requires research. It requires you to treat every human interaction as a puzzle to be solved. Once you decipher the code of the other person's mind, you stop talking about what you need and start talking about what they need. They win. This is one of the fundamental pillars of the laws of power. Always appeal to self-interest, never to mercy or gratitude. When you shape your language to show them that helping you will actually benefit them, you will see their eyes light up, defenses fall, walls become bridges. You move them on the chessboard to the exact position where you need them to be, and they walk there smiling, believing it was their idea. Therefore, shut up. Always speak less than necessary. The more you speak, the more ordinary you seem, and the less control you have. Silence unnerves. Silence confuses. Silence projects power. Let others fill the void with their own insecurities while you observe and calculate. This wisdom doesn't spring from a vacuum. It springs from pain. Naivete is a luxury the real world doesn't forgive. Many enter the arena of life like lambs, believing that simply doing a good job, being honest, and being yourself is enough to be rewarded. What magnificent folly! The world is a political theater. It's a minefield of fragile and inflated egos. I myself walked through this valley of shadows. In more than 50 jobs, at every corner of existence, I suffered deeply because I didn't see the knives being sharpened in the smiles of the corridors. I overshadowed the master, talked too much, trusted the wrong people. I believed that results mattered more than politics, but I discovered, through painful scars, that the hierarchy of the ego is the only law that matters in many courts. I saw bosses walk with the arrogance of emperors, while we, small subjects, tried to survive their hardships. You need to accept that the world is political. To deny this is to choose to be devoured. People have egos, they have hidden agendas, and political incompetence is punished with ostracism and dismissal. The pain I felt, and that you feel, at being betrayed, at being sabotaged, comes from the false belief that the game is fair. It isn't. The game is manipulated by those who know the rules against those who insist on ignoring them. My desire to deliver these laws to the world didn't come from a place of arrogance, but from a deep empathy for the unnecessary suffering caused by ignorance. I see the depression and misery in the eyes of those who believe that it's enough to be good. They are fired and don't know why. They are demoted and blame bad luck. But there is a cure. There is liberation. And liberation happens the moment a light goes on in the dark attic of your mind and you realize, this is how the world works. It's not personal, it's structural. It's like learning the rules of poker. Before, you played cards randomly and lost all your money, feeling like a failure. Now, you understand the hands, the bluffs, the probabilities. You understand that you can't walk into a card room and expect everyone to return their chips out of charity. This shift in perspective, this death of innocence, is not sad. It's healing. It's the moment you stop being a victim of circumstances and begin to become the architect of your destiny. You stop projecting non-existent virtues onto emotional tyrants and begin to see the terrain as it really is. You understand that your kindness, if not protected by cunning, is merely an invitation to abuse. By accepting the political nature of the human animal, you arm yourself. You stop going into work with your guard down. You observe. You analyze. You identify who holds the real power, who is the imposter, who is the danger. This clear vision is what separates the masters from the slaves. And it is about this identification, about seeing through the masks that others use to seduce and destroy you, that we need to talk about next. Because if you don't know how to identify the predator before it enters your house, no strategy in the world can save you when its jaws close. The ability to see the invisible is the primary distinction between the sovereign and the servant, or in the grand masquerade ball that is human society. The faces that smile at you rarely reveal the intentions that seethe behind the eyes. As Robert Greene dissected with the precision of a forensic surgeon, there are predators walking among us, masters of the art of dissimulation, who need no manuals to perpetrate evil, for manipulation is woven into the very helix of their DNA, or was forged in the furnaces of traumatic childhoods, where they learned that to survive, it was necessary to deceive. The most dangerous type is not the brute who threatens you with a raised fist, but the envious one who embraces you with one arm, while with the other hand holds a dagger at your back. Envy is the most cowardly of human passions, because it is the only one that no one confesses to feeling, but it is the silent driving force behind many betrayals. The envious person becomes your friend, not because they admire you, but because they want to be close enough to find the structural flaw in your happiness. And when you stumble, they will be there not to lift you up, but to savor your fall with a secret and perverse satisfaction. And then there's the toxic narcissist, that empty creature who drains the light from the environment to fill the abyss of their own ego. They are consummate actors who, at the beginning of the play, place you on a pedestal, only to knock you down as soon as you dare to demonstrate autonomy. Identifying these archetypes before they cross the gates of your intimacy is the most urgent task of your adult life, because once the parasite settles in, its extraction will cost pieces of your own flesh. But how do you defend yourself in a world where the rules of engagement are not the same for everyone? Here we enter the crucial concept of asymmetric warfare. You can be a person of high morals, raised with values of honesty and fair play, believing that following the rules will be rewarded. You're fighting adversaries who burned the rule book long ago. It's like a conventional army marching in organized lines against guerrillas who use terror, surprise, and a total lack of ethics as weapons. Think of the geopolitical analogy, where democratic nations trapped in bureaucracies and moral conventions fight against autocrats willing to sacrifice everything and everyone to maintain power. In the microcosm of your office or personal relationships, the dynamic is identical. If your colleague or rival is willing to lie, falsify, defame, and destroy reputations to rise, and you limit yourself to what is correct, you are at a perpetual disadvantage. Your morality becomes your strategic weakness. This doesn't mean you should become evil or stoop to their level, because fighting pigs gets you dirty, and the pig likes it. It means, however, that you must be strategic. You must anticipate dirty tricks, not with naivete, but with the preparation of someone who knows the anatomy of evil. Defense against dirty war is not about sanctity, it's about deterrence. You must demonstrate that although you may not attack first, you possess a nuclear arsenal with consequences should you be attacked. The predator seeks easy prey, not adversaries who could cost him dearly. However, no external strategy will work if the walls of your inner citadel are in ruins. Manipulation only finds fertile ground where insecurity exists. The manipulator is an expert at finding the cracks in your self-image. If you don't possess what Green calls genuine self-love, which differs radically from pathological narcissism, you will be a perpetual puppet. Self-love is the internal thermostat that regulates your reaction to the world's attacks. If you know who you are, if you recognize your intrinsic value regardless of others' approval, when someone tries to instill doubt in you or diminish your achievements, the offense hits your armor and falls to the inert ground. You look at the attack and think, this isn't about me. This is about his pathology. But if you are insecure, if you carry the open wounds of childhood, every criticism is a confirmation of your worst fears. Every manipulation is accepted as a deserved truth. The construction of this self-love is not an act of vanity. It is an act of political survival. You must be able to look inward, take responsibility for your own vulnerability, and say, I allowed this to happen because I was seeking outside validation that should have come from within. By ceasing victimhood and taking radical responsibility, you wrest power from the enemy's hands and bring it back into your lap. And finally, for those who seek true transcendence beyond the dirty game of power and manipulation, there is a higher level of consciousness, a final law that Robert Greene is currently carving out, which he calls the sublime. Human life is a tenuous and fragile thread suspended over the abyss of nothingness. We all walk towards the end, and the awareness of death should not be morbid, but rather the greatest source of liberation. When you almost lose your life, as Greene experienced with his stroke, the perspective changes violently. The intrigues of the office, the scorn of a former lover, the frantic search for likes on social media, all this reveals itself as the insignificant dust that it truly is. The sublime is the ability to connect with the vastness of existence, to look at the complexity of a bird, at the history of dead civilizations, at the immensity of the cosmos, and perceive the statistical miracle that is the simple fact that you are here, breathing consciously, capable of thinking and feeling. Today, we live with our faces glued to screens, consuming digital garbage, preoccupied with the opinions of strangers, while the universe unfolds majestically and terribly around us. True defeat isn't losing a power struggle, it's living and dying without ever truly seeing the world. Modern mediocrity pushes us into ever smaller mental boxes, making us obsessed with the trivial. Supreme power lies in breaking those boxes. When you touch the sublime, when you understand the brevity of your time here, you become untouchable. What can a petty manipulator do against someone who faces eternity? Their provocations become the buzzing of insects. You reach a state of true detachment, not out of arrogance, but because your soul has expanded beyond the reach of their claws. You play the power game when necessary to protect yourself and advance, but you never lose sight of the fact that it's just a game. Thus, we conclude this treatise on human nature. We began in the trenches of manipulation. learning to see the shadows, and we end in the mountains of the sublime, learning to see the light. The path of the intellectual warrior is this: to get your hands dirty in the clay of political reality, to build your foundation, but to keep your mind elevated in the spheres of great philosophy, so as not to lose your soul. Do not be the naive one who is devoured, nor the monster that devours. Be the lucid observer, the relentless strategist, and the profound appreciator of the strange and marvelous experience of being alive. May these words serve as a weapon and as a shield, as a map and as a compass. The world will try to bend you, try to break you, and try to mold you in the image of others' convenience. Resist, observe, attack if necessary, but above all, live with the intensity of one who knows that time is the only resource that does not renew itself. If this content resonated with you and broadened your understanding of reality, please like the video, comment on which law of power you will apply today, and subscribe to the channel for more revelations.